All right.
Okay.
This is our first
All right.
podcast here. This is Romancing the Data. I'm Remy.
I'm Diego.
I'm Alex.
And yeah, we're just gonna chat a little bit about the trade deadline today, maybe go over, right, like each of our team's different hopes, right? Hopes, dreams, ambitions, dream deadline. I want to get Scherzer, right, or something like that. I think the Rangers may have got him, but we're just gonna jump right into it
Yeah.
and chat a little bit about the deadline, maybe who'll win what division. That'll be cool. Maybe then we'll do a deadline review in the future. We don't know. We're gonna feel this out. So yeah, we're gonna begin first with a little Max Scherzer trade. Diego, do you want to kick that off?
Sure. John Heyman was tweeted right before I got into the shower that uh, that the Rangers and Mets had agreed to a trade for Max Scherzer to go to Texas, and obviously he has a no trade clause for like every team, so it's hinging upon the fact that he can waive that so he can go to the Rangers, and it's all approved. He just needs to say yes. I don't know what uh, the Rangers would get or the Mets would get in return
Right. Yeah.
because I don't know how deep the Rangers farm system is. I wouldn't assume it's that deep
Mm.
because they're in win now mode, obviously. And I think this is really telling on the Mets of where they're going this year. Um, and I don't know if it sucks because I'm not a Mets fan. I don't like the Mets. I What they did in the offseason was really cool. The past couple off seasons, I like I like to see Cohen spend money, but just they haven't had hitting. Their pitching's just been underperforming so
Right.
hard. Um, and so to see them start trading away people like David Robertson to the Marlins and now Scherzer to the Rangers,
It
it's
just
just
signals, right, that they're kind of like
yeah,
done. They're
It,
just done
it's
with
give
this
up.
year.
It's
yeah,
give up on the season. Yeah.
Right.
exactly, pretty much.
What I will tell you is, I mean, I don't know the Mets farm system. I guess I'll look at it right now. But I would assume that the Mets are going to want to get a couple of pitching prospects from the Rangers.
Yeah,
But here's the thing, the Mets, I think that they're really horrible at managing pitching prospects, like, or just in general, like pitchers. I mean, obviously they purchased DeGrom and Verlander. I mean, sorry, not DeGrom, but Scherzer and
Verlander
Verlander in
and
the
Scherzer.
offseason. And well, here's the thing, if you look at their internal guys, right, like Tyler Megill, he's been kind of mid. Then you have like what's his name, David Peterson, right? I think he was Padres dude beforehand. Oh no, that's Joey Lucchesi, but you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
David Peterson, Joey Lucchesi. These are guys that either they traded for or developed and have just like really been quad A arms, really horrible. A bunch of underlying results that have just been like atrocious. Obviously, their bullpen management's really good, but yeah, I would assume that they might want. Let's see. I mean, Owen White, Brock Porter. I mean, the Rangers have a pretty good farm system right now, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. You have Jack Leiter could be traded. Evan Carter is
Oh,
pretty
that's
good,
true.
and even like Justin Foscue. But I think Brock Porter might be like a really big like guy here for them to go and get. If I remember correctly, yeah, he's drifted out of prep. Got a really good slider, or got a really good fastball, decent slider. So he's kind of a pronation arsenal, I think, right? He's got a, it looks like a carry fastball, decent curveball, decent plus slider, and then a really good changeup. So maybe they go for him. Maybe a guy like Jack Leiter. Maybe
I
Evan
I
Carter.
honestly don't see them giving up Jack Leiter. At
Right.
least, definitely not in this Scherzer deal, just because I feel like, I mean, they already kind of not through a trade, but through the signing of Degrom, right? That was we're gonna go get a veteran pitcher who is also from the Mets, coincidentally, and very elite at a time. And obviously, there's still plenty of time to override the Jacob Degrom is injured every year story. However, I don't know if they want to take that gamble again, giving up a ton of prospects, especially Jack Leiter out of all prospects, to get another veteran pitcher who has been extremely underwhelming overall, especially compared to what we've seen from Max Scherzer's career. It's just it doesn't feel like an equal trade. So I can't imagine them giving up Jack Leiter. Some of the other ones I could see, but
Yeah, I mean, I was just listing guys I'm seeing in the system, but like I think maybe they could go and get rid of Jack Leiter just from the standpoint of, well, he's going to be an MLB ready arm pretty much next year. That could be interesting for
yeah,
that team. But obviously, yeah, like maybe a guy who's lower, uh, let's go lower in the minors, like Brock Porter could be interesting. He has a really good arsenal, and he's only at looks like just single A right now. So maybe him, throw him Luis Angel Acuna. Evan Carter, someone to get this trade done. But I don't know if the Rangers are really intent on taking on the entire Scherzer deal. I think he's going to opt out after the season closes,
Yeah.
but like that's a lot of money to take on. So
It's
maybe
it's
they'll get a
$40 million.
prospect. What's up?
It's $40 million a year. That's just a lot.
And I think he's going to opt out, which I think is like delusional because he's already getting paid. I don't
Yeah,
understand why he would opt out of contract in which he's making more money. I don't know. He wants to win, right? Maybe he'll go to Dodgers. Really doubt that because he's old and you know
no.
I mean, looking at Scherzer's page right now, like his strikeouts and walk rate and whiff rate's like pretty darn good.
He's not
Obviously, like
a horrendous season, but just by his
right,
standard, it's just subpar.
The home runs have been an issue,
right, yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, he
More
has a
more
career
barrel
high
balls,
home runs
yeah.
per
You
nine.
can't limit hard contact, it looks like, but that also makes sense
Mhm.
from a starter's perspective. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I would never trade for Max Scherzer. Like he's cool, he's
Yeah,
a
but not
veteran, but
anymore.
there's nothing like interesting in the arsenal, in my opinion. Like there's really nothing like saying, "Oh, let me trade for this guy." Like at all. Like I don't understand. But
At this point, you're just trading for a name, a big
right,
name.
yeah,
Yeah.
something to energize the clubhouse, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
And I think that's the same thing. That's what's going to happen to Justin Verlander.
ooh, yeah.
Well,
I'm curious to see who'll get him because I know that the Dodgers were like
I
kind of
hope
intent
not.
on that.
I
I
hope
feel
not.
like with
They
Lance
already
Lynn, they're
have Lance
probably,
Lynn.
yeah.
See, okay, the Lance Lynn trade's kind of interesting because I mean
He's there just
Nastrini,
to
I
eat
would say,
innings.
huh?
He's there just to eat innings. He's not anything special, like at all
Well, he is
anymore.
higher upside for certain. Like, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
also
of
proven,
course.
and he's a veteran. So like, there are a couple of different factors. Uh, there's this one guy I follow on like Ray's Twitter, Ben Whitelaw, and he was saying like how his first two times through lineup he's really good, and he's got really good
Yeah,
in zone whiff stuff. But the thing is with Lance Lynn is like obviously the home runs are going to be a problem, and he's kind of like a Mr. Jekyll or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like he's gonna have one really amazing performance where he strikes out like 16 Mariner hitters, and then give up like 17 homers versus the Twins. It's unfortunate. But getting Joe Kelly, that's a guy. That's a real guy right there.
he does have nice stuff. I will admit.
Even
His
in a 35-year-old season, like he's performing amazingly, you know, underlying metrics wise.
yeah peripherals, not
Yeah,
baseball.
not his ERA. His ERA.
Yeah.
And then
That's
we
okay.
can.
We're still getting more people.
I was gonna say we can talk really quickly then, like kind of just like move over to what the Dodgers have done. Um, getting as we said, Lance
I
Lynn, and
love what they've done so far with
they've
Kike.
they've done some pretty cool trades. I really
Yeah.
like
Rosario was really good yesterday.
I like the
Rosario.
That
Syndergaard
trade I really like,
moving. Yeah.
That's like
especially for trading him for Syndergaard for pretty much
such a
nothing.
fleece, like
Just
unbelievable
an
fleece.
overall really good trade.
Yeah. And then they also who did they traded two AAA relievers for Kike Hernandez, which I think is like incredible. Like it's great because listen, Kike is a proven he's a proven quantity. He's a postseason hero. 21, he was absurd. Like literally, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds levels of how good he was. He's already been in LA,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm pretty certain they can just discover him again, right? Rediscover him. So it's a great trade on their behalf. And then yeah,
Uh,
as we said, the Syndergaard thing, and then the Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly. Who knows what else they'll get? They'll probably get Verlander. Trade away Nick
yeah.
Frost while they're at it.
Obviously, Verlander is a big name, and we were in on him during the offseason, but I don't think he's like from what he's shown this year. Um, I just anything we give up for him would be a win on the Mets part.
I was
We
gonna
don't
say
have
I'm
him for this year, and I guess okay, maybe it's not that bad since it's just a 1 year deal or whatever it was.
yeah.
But I think anything the Mets can get for Verlander would be a win, considering they're not close to the playoffs. They're, I think they're under 500 at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're
they're
Yeah. So just anything they can get for Verlander would be good for them.
I'm kind of
And not even
curious.
the ones that they give to.
I'm kind of curious by like what the Dodgers have done to some degree because obviously they're saving up for the big fish in the offseason,
Yeah.
which is going to be Otani. I'm
yeah.
pretty certain they're going to go and get him, which makes a lot of even the Angels didn't want to trade him to LA because apparently, right, some insider maybe it was like I don't know, some guy in FanSided or something, but it said something along the lines of, well, the Dodgers are going like if he's traded Dodgers, he's going to be comfortable in LA and he's going to want to stay with the Dodgers. So the Angels didn't want to do that because let's be real, like if he was on the market, even for half a season, the Dodgers would trade him just so they can try and extend him or do whatever.
Yeah.
So and it's incredible what the Dodgers are doing. Like they've remained so competitive, even though they're pretty much rebuilding this entire year. It's very impressive.
But that's then rebuilding is like a really thrown
It's a
around.
generous term
Yeah,
for the
for
with the
what the
Dodgers
Dodgers are
stay.
doing.
It was never really a
It would be a
rebuild. It was
freaking
just not the super team we're used to seeing in them.
Yeah,
It was, hey, we're gonna let some people walk. Trey Turner's gonna leave.
yeah,
Justin Turner's gonna leave. It was I don't know. I don't think that can be classified as a rebuild, especially when you have such a competent franchise.
yeah.
They know how to play baseball no matter who they have. They know how to take prospects that have struggled in the past or players that look like their career is just headed down the drain and revamp them. People like Tyler Anderson, maybe one of the best examples. What they
right.
did with Tyler Anderson was kind of phenomenal when you look at what he was and then what he did with them last year.
And what he is
So
now with the
yeah,
Angels.
right, exactly.
I mean, again, the reason I think it's a rebuild, like obviously a rebuild kind of signals that team is right, like below 500 or something, or dropping in standings. We could just argue that it's a drop in quality from, as we're saying, like that other, like let's say 20 and 21 Dodgers clubs. Those clubs were amazing. 22, I
Oh,
think less so, but 20 and 21, and this year,
2022, we broke the franchise record for wins.
I mean, personally, I just thought that on paper they weren't necessarily as good as I think the 2020 and 20 I thought the 21 team was very special. But what I was going to say specifically about rebuilds is you have a mix of young players and veterans, right? Like look at a team like the Pirates. You have guys who are younger, like Mitch Keller and let's say O'Neill Cruz, Brian Hayes, and more guys that they're bringing up, Alika Williams recently. And then you have veterans like Carlos Santana, Rich Hill. And then with the Dodgers, you have that
Well,
pretty much the same thing
they
this
don't
year.
have
You have
Santana
Jason
anymore.
Hayward. Huh?
They don't have Santana anymore.
Brewers,
Right.
right?
He traded
I,
the Brewers.
I'm yeah, but you understand my point,
But
right?
yeah,
And the
yeah.
Dodgers this
There are
year,
other
they have
like McCutcheon.
yeah, like McCutcheon, right? They need that veteran leadership, and then the Dodgers, you have guys like Michael Grove, Michael Bush, who should be traded at some point. Miguel Vargas, Johnny DeLuca,
Vargas, I
Nick
also think
Brasso, other guys who are going to come up and throw innings for them. Bobby Miller, of course, couldn't forget him.
Bobby Miller. Yeah.
so good, so good,
So good.
such a good fastball.
Yeah. That definitely worked out for them. I saw his first start actually in Atlanta. We were
Yeah,
on the East Coast watching Braves Dodgers, and
Wow.
he looked a little shaky the first inning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't know. We always like to jump to conclusions with the small sample size. It's hard not
yeah.
to when that's your size. But yeah, he's been phenomenal after that inning, and ever since it's been really impressive. He had, I believe, one outing. I forget who it was
Giants.
against. Yeah, where it was. Yeah, there was one outing where he looked human for a
Like, what
second,
was it?
but yeah, but
Yeah.
you're a pitcher in the MLB. Sometimes people are just going to put good swings on you. That's how it works. You can't
Well,
complain
yeah.
at all about him. Yeah.
The stuff is just unreal, like from him. I think for a while he was like averaging 100 on his fastball or 99. He throws a really good curveball at like 83, really good slider that he can just constantly pump in there at like 93, something like DeGrom levels. And I
Yeah.
think recently added like a sweeper and he's got a filthy changeup. So he's just an amazing pitcher, like complete top quality, great drafting by the Dodgers, really good player development. So
Yeah.
very impressive to see him succeed.
See, but the same can't be said for like Gavin Stone, which is
Yeah, I don't know about Stone, dude. I don't like him actually. Like his
no,
changeup's good-ish.
it's just it's sad
His
because
fastballs are not good. Like,
I like Gavin Stone more than I like Bobby Miller when they were both prospects
yeah,
because I like Gavin Stone's changeup so much.
yeah.
But it is what it is. Some people do good in the majors, some don't.
I mean, he just seems. See, the problem with Gavin Stone is he's just kind of like a two-pitch guy, like
Yeah, fastball changeup.
change-up slider. No, no, not even necessarily. Like the fastball, I think is a really bad pitch. Like I'm looking at it right now. It's slightly above average in terms of both.
It's kind of mediocre. It's
It's
just
really not good, and he
it
only has
exists
93
because
on
you
it.
need a fastball. I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah,
like you can't
it's
not have a
Last start, when he
fastball.
got sent down, he gave up like 10 runs or something.
yeah. I think he played against the Rays. It was like this weird Josh Fleming versus
He gave
Gavin
up
Stone
like,
game, and they had like 30 runs combined. They got so shit. Uh, yeah, I don't like Gavin Stone much, but there's some stuff like I mean, if he just constantly or consistently just improves like maybe weight training off season, some sort of flexibility stuff, I'm sure he could gain velo. Like if he was at like 95 96 maybe
He'd be a better.
consistently, which isn't a huge jump. That's only let's say 1.5 miles per hour. If he gets that up, and not even necessarily in off season, over like 2 years, that whiff could jump up to like 30% if he can keep the same fastball quality. I guess. All right. Do you guys want to talk about the Rays or the Padres next?
I'm cool with either. Want to talk about
Um,
the Rays for a bit?
Talk about
sure.
I
I guess I'll yeah, I mean I had some notes on them. I'll pull them up real quick. So I wanted them to get a starter or bulk guy at the deadline and then like maybe a catcher or a versatile hitter. And then I would really wanted to get two relief pitchers, but I think they're just gonna maybe get one. And then a couple of controllable prospects, just like trade off some of the Rule 5 guys. But like in terms of starters, looked at like a ton of guys, but I think there are only a few that are really available at this point. Like one of them I really like is Jacob Junis on the Giants. He's got a really filthy slider, a lot of like seam shifted wake stuff happening, which is always really cool. And the Rays love that. Maybe a guy like Sean Hageli. Like the Giants, apparently their starters are open to be traded at deadline. That could be really cool. Maybe Mariners, maybe a young
Jelly's the
Mariners
tall guy,
prospect.
right?
Huh?
Jelly's the really tall guy.
Yeah, his jelly is like 6'11". He throws like a really steep sinker, really funny release point. Got a ton of drop. I mean, if there's like a hard gyro curveball, it's like 86 with 40 inches of drop. It's really impressive.
No, you know
But
I want to. I want to see the Rays trade for Lawrence, Justin Lawrence from the Rockies.
I really want to see that too. Like he is beyond filthy, Justin Lawrence. And it's like the Rockies are just wasting him. Like he's
No,
just
he's
been
having a
there
good
for
year in Colorado.
and he's filthy. Like he knows he's filthy.
Yeah,
His slider, I think this year has literally ticked up like 100 RPMs. He's averaging like 3K on
his
sweepers.
arm slot is so nasty.
And he used to throw 100, right? And then obviously they lowered it. But like
Yeah.
Justin Lawrence, I would love to see him traded. I'd flip maybe like Jonathan Aranda and like a mid-tier pitching prospect for him because I think Lawrence also has like 3 or 4 years of control.
Yeah.
And even if he suffers Tommy John 1 year, which is relatively likely because
Probably
like
will.
here's the thing, like the Rockies are horrible pitching management. Like I think three of their top five pitching prospects, no, seriously, went down. I saw this tweet, got TJ in the last week. Like
Oh yeah,
that's
I did see that
tough.
too.
And then you have
They
Anthony
also just
Santazella. Anthony Santazella and Herman Marquez both underwent Tommy John this year as well. What is happening over there in chorus, dude? What is happening?
air, man.
And something is not something is not good over there. But yeah, I know from an outsider's take, what do you guys think the Rays should do at the deadline? Obviously, they've struggled a lot in July, but they're looking better of late. I think
Yeah.
they beat the Astros yesterday.
I think they could stand to get another bat, like a big bat. I don't know, because they have their outfield's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um, where does Harold Ramirez play? He plays left.
he plays like DH, 1B, sometimes left.
Okay.
He's kind of like not great. Honestly, I don't really even know what I have him. He's really like mid, but I mean, he's solid for the team. He
Is that
gets
a big
like
that guy?
he's a huge contact guy. He's a big contact guy, but that's the thing. He's gonna have like these huge BABIP regression like throughout the season. He kind of is up and down.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe they could add a guy. I was thinking, you guys know who MJ Melendez is out of
Yeah,
the Royal
Royals
system?
catcher left
He
fielder.
is,
Oh,
yeah, you
he's
can look
solid.
it up on Savant. He's got some really good exit velocities. He can also play catcher. He's not a horrible catcher. He's not great. His
No,
framing's really
he's
bad.
not a good catcher.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's passable defensively. Like framing doesn't take much to learn. Like, look, William Contreras went to the Brewers.
Framing
He,
doesn't take much to learn.
no, it doesn't. William Contreras, 1 year, he's like an elite
Teach Will
framer.
Smith how to frame. I'm begging you.
I think he's actually not horrible, but like framing's very possible to fix, and then he can play left, right, and one B. So I think MJ Melendez would be a really like I
That'd be a good
posted this
trade.
trade on Twitter. I think he'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would cost a pretty penny though.
I think it would only cost like
Years of control.
well, he has a lot of control, and he was technically highly touted for a while. But the thing with MJ Melendez, like throwing him and Dylan Coleman in a trade. And I mean, the trade simulator's value, I think, I mean, if
I'm
I
just
can
saying
remember
that
correctly, it was
the
like,
website to use.
no, no, it's not great, but it's like you trade Mason Montgomery, who's an upcoming pitching prospect,
Yeah.
and the Royals need starting pitching, a Slevis Basabe, who I believe is a shortstop, or no, it was Greg Jones. Greg Jones is like a toolsy outfielder who hasn't really figured things out yet. And Cooper Kinney, who is the Rays' competitive balance pick in 21. He's got a really great hit tool. You trade those three, and I think that trade's very possible to get Melendez and Dylan Coleman, who's got a great sweeper. he throws like 100 and it like cuts a ton. So very possible.
I think catcher is probably definitely the spot if they were to go and
Yeah.
bolster it, that would be the position. But I don't know. When I look at that Rays roster, part of me thinks, do they really need to trade at
Yeah,
all and sacrifice? Part of me thinks they might be able to. I mean, because I don't know. Every part of their roster still feels very complete to me. And
yeah.
I don't know, like the pitching staff, sure, like the Fleming's injury, like that hurts, but he should be back ideally towards like the start of October, right? And should be there for playoff time. You probably know
I,
better than me, is he?
no, yeah. So I mean, I think you're really right. Like I kind of mentioned this in this tweet a little while back, but yeah, like I don't think they really need to trade much. Fleming is going to be back probably in a month, less than a month. Eflin is currently injured. If he can make his next start, that'd be nice. Like if he's healthy, then you don't really need to trade for anyone. Just wait for Fleming to come up. Obviously, Fleming isn't going to be your guy in October. He eats innings like, like a
Right,
professional eater every year, right? Like a hot
right.
dog champion.
Yeah. And when you got Shane, Tyler, healthy Eflin, and Bradley, who's surpassed expectations this year, I feel like
Yeah,
you don't really need that fifth guy, especially in the playoffs. You just need someone to eat up innings and let your aces dominate the game and let your offense continue to do what they've been doing. Sure, it's faltered a bit recently. The power hasn't been exactly what we saw, but then again, the expectations were unrealistic after, the 30 and
yeah,
13 start. Of
totally
course,
agree.
that's unsustainable, but I don't know. Sure, they aren't like officially the top dog in the AL East anymore, but I feel like that's more of a testament to how competent and solid the O's are playing as a
Yeah.
baseball team rather than, oh, the Rays have been terrible recently.
Yeah,
I feel like the formula is good. The coaching's always been there. The way they handle their pitching prospects is always impressive in Tampa Bay. Their philosophy, like I feel like they might just want to stick with what they're doing. And
yeah.
if they're a first round exit in the playoffs this year, then maybe they reassess during the offseason and say, okay, maybe we do need that extra emphasis on a catcher, or maybe we do need to bolster our pitching staff or whatever they think they need. But right now, I say just stick with what you're doing.
Yeah, one thing very quickly I was gonna say, if for them trading for a starting pitcher, the reason I gave Jacob Junis or especially a rental would be really good for them is because next year they pretty much have 9 starters coming back. Obviously, some of those guys might be non-tendered or traded, but like right, you have let me think, Glasnow, Fleming, Shane, Eflin, Bradley, and then there's Jacob Lopez in AAA who will start at some point. Drew Rasmussen, he's going to be out to the middle of 24. Jeffrey Spring, Shane Boz, who's going to be back next year. And then you have Zach Littell, who's been making spot starts, and you have Sean Armstrong. So that's like 11 starting pitchers or bolt guys. It's a lot of pitchers.
Yeah,
So getting a guy who's like either can slot in a bolt role next year, so he can, buy the guys in AAA time, or a guy who's going to be free agent at the end of the year would be perfect. But like a guy like Jack Flaherty is probably going to be like 2 or 3 good prospects. I just not go. I just wait for Josh Fleming to come back.
I don't know if Jack Flaherty would cost 2 good prospects. I think his values dipped tremendously since like what was it 2020 2019 that he was good. I don't know if he'd be that much anymore because he's not the young guy that everyone thought he was going to be. Him and Bueller
yeah.
were like neck and neck in 2019. They were supposed to be the 2 next big aces, and he just didn't turn out to be that way. So I don't know if he'd be 2 good prospects.
The reason I say that is because of like the seller's market that's taking place. I also like him because he's gonna be a free agent and he's like a worse Lance Lynn. And he's got some pretty interesting stuff. Like he's a supinator, so he can like cut stuff really well, like really good at cutting, got a really good curveball. But then like the Cardinals over the last like 3 years have like made him worse. It's really bad. Like they dropped his arm slot, they forced him to like just purely cut stuff as opposed to get behind it. So the fastball doesn't get whiffs anymore. It gets weak contact, but doesn't get whiffs. I don't know. Things have kind of become a disaster for him, and the question is whether or not half a season can really change that. I don't know. He'd be a good free agent target, I think. I think he'd be an interesting free agent ad.
Well, I think you never know what the Rays can do in half a season.
Yeah, yeah.
You always got to think about that.
I just think it's a lot for, like I don't know. I think it would take a while, but Yeah, just pivoting once more. Let's just talk briefly about like some relief pitchers. Like I know that they've been looking at Jordan Hicks that I've heard, which is, I mean, Jordan Hicks is
Jordan Hicks has
amazing.
been going out like a whole bunch.
And then you have a guy like Adam Ottavino. I think maybe the Mets would be willing to get him
I
off.
see. I mean, I see Mets in
Trading
total
Verlander for
panic
trading
mode.
Scherzer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would love to see Adam Ottavino in the Rays. He throws a really interesting sweeping slider, pretty good cutter. His entire arsenal is really, really interesting. It's a lot of seam shifted wake stuff, so he's cutting the ball a ton and it's getting really cool movement. I was thinking also like Aaron Bummer. He could also be pretty interesting and relatively cheap. There's also like Jake Bird, Mark Leiter, Greg Santos. The Greg Santos is a really, really crazy guy out of White Sox. He averages 100 on his fastball, 93 on a plus slider. It's like, why is he on the White Sox?
I
He also
wonder if the White Sox are even going to give up more pitching prospects because they've gotten rid of five, right? I'm thinking Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, Lucas Giolito, Ronaldo Lopez, and Graveman, right?
Yeah,
They
there's
sent him to
Graveman
the Astros.
and what's his name? And Kelly, right? Or maybe you didn't you maybe you already said him, but yeah, that's like
Yeah,
five.
Kelly.
it was all five of them.
Right. I know they're in rebuild mode. Obviously, what happened in Chicago this year, like what happened in Chicago was a complete disaster so far,
Yeah,
and they
it's
need
not
to figure out what's up next. But I don't know if they can even afford to give up more pitching than what they've already given up. You need some amount still, I feel like, just for the future. And I mean, the guys they've given up so far, I understand why. Higher trade value, good to get prospects with. I mean, they got a great return with the Angels with their number 2 and 3 prospects, right?
That was a really good trade.
It
you're right.
was.
Kai
I
Bush
could see
and
that.
Edgar Quero, I believe. Quero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, they've needed a solution to the catcher position. I feel like for a while in the Sox, it's
Yeah,
been
they even got Corey Lee
rocky.
recently from the Astros, who's
that,
not a
that was
horrible
that was
prospect.
I was surprised they got that for Kendall Graveman. That's a really big price.
I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is, I think it's important to remember like both the Angels, like we see like number 2 and 3, and then I think Lee was like a number 4 or 5 in the Astro system. But what's important to remember is both of those systems are really bad. Like those guys would never be in the top 100 because they're just not good enough. Like they just aren't, unfortunately for them.
I
But
don't think Corey Lee's that bad.
he's not that bad. But he's also not like top 100. He's not like a
Yeah,
Curtis Mead or whoever else
yeah,
they or I guess catcher. Man, I can't even think of one like Dalton Rushing. I think he'll be top 100 soon. He's really good. So yeah, and Diego Cartaya, right? He's
Oh, I know.
really amazing.
Cartier
So
is really slow right now, man. He
they
is.
should honestly, I think that the Dodgers should have
That's
just traded
fine.
for Arenado and like traded Cartaya away and stuff. I think that'd be perfect.
A lot of
Because like
people were
like that.
speculating a Flaherty and Arenado package to the Dodgers,
That
That
which
would
would be
be
I
a
cool.
good package. I don't
yeah
know
I
what Pryor can do to Flaherty to fix him. Probably
yeah
nothing.
Similar to
yeah.
what the
I mean,
Rays do. Like the Dodgers and the Rays are the same system, just like the Dodgers like pitching or I mean fastball quality more. But like they're the same
They like
people.
sliders more.
The Dodgers? No. I think they like fastball quality. Like in the sense of like look at like Bobby Miller and like Michael Grove, a bunch of these guys, like they have really good fastballs. But I don't know, you might be right. They have targeted some sliders, but I
Bobby
think it's
Miller both
mostly
throw
fastball
fantastic
quality.
sliders.
Hmm?
But Grove and Miller both throw fantastic sliders.
I mean, they throw gyro sliders, but I mean, I understand your point. But like, okay, think about it like this: like
Sure,
the reason
they're
why
both
they throw
they're
gyro
both really
sliders is
small
because like
range.
they get really good carry fastballs and like get tunnel as well. But yeah. Good thing. What was else? Oh yeah. So really quickly about Arenado, do you guys think he'll be moved? Because I think it's possible. There was a 1% thing. I think it's 50%. I think it's very possible.
I think it's a non-zero percentage.
for sure. Yeah, I'd probably give it around 50 at this point because I can't believe I don't believe that they're going to get rid of no one and stick with what they're doing because obviously the Cardinals need
No, I saw
to
a report that
ship
they
some
were going to
people
trade
out.
Helsley too. The
They should trade Helsley. Although
It's
he's
probably
injured.
about time. Yeah,
They should just trade like anyone who is value right now except maybe Goldschmidt because I think he's a good veteran who could help you with the rebuild. But like everyone else on that team,
he's
right?
35 now, Goldschmidt, and
Arenado's what, like 32, 33?
oh,
Arenado, how old is he? Like 32, 33?
yeah, he's a little younger than Goldschmidt, not that much. He's still in his prime, I would say.
That's exactly why I was gonna trade for him because look, you give away like let's say the Dodgers, you give away like Cartaya and maybe you give away let's say you
Gold
give away
Toronto.
Pepio and like maybe not Emmett Sheehan, but like another guy in that thing, and you throw in Michael Bush. I think it's a perfect trade.
That's perfect.
I think it's perfect
All those
because
guys
like
suck.
it's not that they suck, it's that they're all blocked. They're all blocked.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have a negative war catcher. Andrew Knizner is not good. He is not good. He's like negative
Yeah.
war catcher. They have another guy. I think Herrera. I forget his name, but he's been like demoted to the minors, and I think that they don't really want to play him. But I don't know. I think they should just trade for Goldschmidt. I think it'd be really good. Like you don't want Miguel Rojas manning third base or Max Muncy or whoever is playing third base right now. You
Yeah.
know, I think that'd be a great move.
No, I
And like
mean
to get
Muncie
rid of a
hasn't been
couple of those
terribly
Rule 5
defensive,
guys.
terrible defensive. But that trade with Cartai and a couple other pitching prospects would be fantastic.
Because look, they want young pitching. You give them a catcher, and then you give them a
No,
block
but
third
what's funny
baseman
about
who
the
could be a
catcher
good
part
hitter.
is they just signed Wilson Contreras over the offseason.
I heard they were willing to trade him.
And
I heard they're willing to
he
trade
just
him.
hasn't been good.
Like they're a disaster. Like how do you
Yeah.
have Ryan Helsley and not make the playoffs in like the last 3 years? I mean, well, sorry. How do you have a first round exit
Not
with
gone
like
far in the playoffs.
right, Jordan Hicks, Ryan Helsley? I mean, their starting pitching is like
They had a good squad. It just hasn't come to fruition like they wanted to.
their 21 squad was good if I remember.
They
22 is
were
decent.
they snuck into the wild card after like a crazy last month of baseball. I remember
Yeah.
I forget the exact probability to make the playoffs for the Cardinals at the end, but it was ridiculously low. They were like way on the outside of the wild card picture, past the Reds, past the Padres. And then I think they got walked off, right, by the Dodgers in the wild card.
However
But
they lost in the playoffs, I
Yeah,
have
in
no idea.
21, yeah, there was a
Yeah.
I
homer
don't
off of
remember how they got eliminated.
was
there's a
it
homer off of
Chris?
what's his name? Alex Reyes, who the Dodgers
I have
signed.
no idea who hit the homer either.
The Chris Taylor
I think I
homer.
want to say
I
Chris
definitely
Taylor, right?
wasn't there.
Yeah, it was Chris Taylor, right?
I
And then
think.
I was
22,
there with Adrian and Brandon at the game.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say in 22, I remember that I think they played the Phillies and they had like a 5-run lead in the ninth, and
Oh
then
yeah.
someone just blew it. I think it was Hicks. And I'm like the Cardinals, like their devil magics ran out, I think. At least for now.
It runs out after the playoffs.
Oh,
Yeah.
unfortunate because
Sad way to see Pujols go out too.
yeah.
I was like, poor Pujols. Like he doesn't deserve that.
He didn't deserve the Angels contract or the Angels like basement thing that happened. Dude, look at this.
Yeah.
Think about it like this. The Angels have probably had let's say four generational talents on the roster in the last 15 years. Oh no, I guess we can narrow it. Whenever Josh Hamilton signed, so 2012, 2013,
Oh, sure.
they made the playoffs once. They had Josh Hamilton, who was an MVP, and he was like an absurd home run hitter. He was great.
Yeah.
Although, he has his own problems. And then you have Albert Pujols, who was like 4-time MVP, amazing first baseman. Mike Trout, who's won the MVP like 5 times. Shohei Ohtani, who's gonna win the MVP this year and maybe a Cy Young, and who knows what else?
And a new home run record, right?
And a new home run record.
Somewhat
Like,
on pace.
They just can't do anything.
They're just I guess this does kind of transfer into the Padres, but I was gonna say I kind of although like both I think that the Padres and the Angels should be sellers because like a lot of those guys are expiring. I think that both of them, I mean, the Angels have done this. I think the Padres should do this too. They should just go all in because the Padres, especially, they have 2 guys in Snell and Hader who they don't want to trade, and they have Machado. They have probably one of the better rosters on paper, like in the league, easily, but they have no depth,
Oh yeah.
and maybe they need a starter. It's just like I want the Padres to figure it out. And Alex, I know that you disagreed with me when we were kind of off the air, but I would just like you to maybe explain
Yeah,
your take
for
on them
sure.
as a
Yeah.
fan of them.
Yeah, I have some stats I was researching and wrote down about the Padres too. I got here. I'm gonna read off some of them. But yeah, if there's anything the Padres and some other teams, if there's anything we've learned from the MLB this season, it's that money is not what gets you a championship or contention, let alone. I mean, you look at the Mets, Yankees, Padres, top 3 in payroll, and they're all out of the playoff picture at the moment. Sure, Yankees could maybe claw their way back. They're not like completely terrible. But I mean, Mets, as we've seen over the past few days, like Mets are pretty much giving up, getting rid of Robertson, getting rid of Scherzer, might get rid of Verlander, maybe Ottavino. Who knows who else they're gonna send off to try and salvage a little bit. But yeah, Padres are in a similar situation, but they also, what I've learned about the Padres after watching too many games and being frustrated by so many games is they they actually put up good numbers overall. Not near what you would expect them to with their roster, but they're not a downright bad team, and their record doesn't really show how good of a team they are. So they're an enigma in that way. Some stats to back this up because I was curious because it's been really bad all season. Run differential, they're plus 57. That's fifth in the entire league behind Rangers, Braves, Rays, and Dodgers, which is like, okay, no shocker. Those are four very, very solid, competent teams on the pitching side and the offensive side, but fifth in the league. And I mean, that if you go to like expected win total given that run differential, they're hovering around 58 wins, which is like looking at a playoff spot, theirs to lose, but that's not the case. And the reason is this may be the least clutch team to ever play baseball. And it sounds like an exaggeration, but here's some stats, right? Extra innings. We've played 9 extra inning games this year, the Padres. Guess how many we've won?
0.
0.
Oh wow.
0. We are 0-9 in extra innings.
Sounds like the 2021 Rays. I think that they literally had like 1 win in 12 extra inning games.
Right. It's been
like that like a couple years ago. I think 2021 was really bad.
Right. But yeah, that happens. Some poor extra inning luck. We can't get it done. We always try to do the bunt sack fly move, and we never execute it ever, ever, ever. And when we do, the bullpen blows it, but at the bottom half of the inning. But 1-run games, 6-21, which is
that's not
statistically
good.
horrible.
That's not good.
And
the
one
Rays
of
have a similar problem with that. It's not good.
Yeah, it's tough. But when you're not putting up incredible jaw-dropping numbers outside of that, like you need to win those games, especially this late in the season, and they haven't done it all year. One of the biggest reasons for not doing that all year is their RISP average, which at one point was the worst in recorded MLB history. Funny enough, it was below 200. It was awful. We've gotten a little bit better, and by a little bit better, I mean like a little tiny bit better. Our RISP average is 223, which is, for reference, 29th. The only team worse than us is the Oakland A's, which not company you want to be with. Yeah. And the Oakland A's are at 222. So we're 1,001 better than the Oakland A's in that category.
And that's with guys like Machado and Soto too, versus Oakland A's right? Like Marcus or
exactly.
Ledmu's Diaz. Yeah. I mean,
right. The A's, I mean, are an absolute disaster. Yeah. Very little competency on that team besides maybe Brent Rooker. Brent Rooker's put up decent numbers, but I mean, every team's gonna have someone.
And like Seth Brown and Mason Miller. Outside of those, like three guys, maybe there are a couple guys in the bullpen who are interesting. Everyone else is like, why? Like, why are you playing baseball?
Right. Exactly.
Why'd you sign these guys?
Exactly. But you don't get that excuse when you're not a rebuilding team moving to Vegas in 2 years. You're the Padres that just went out and spent millions. If we're being honest,
NLCS exit, you know?
NLCS exit, right? Great team, but I think we got a little too cocky. The front office got a little too spend happy. The Cronenworth contract, I mean, he's hitting 210 right now. And
what's the OPS looking like? Like 600?
It's mid 600s.
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think he needed another year to prove himself. And if we waited like a few months into the season to decide whether to pay him, all that money would have went straight to Ha-Seong Kim, which would have been absolutely better in my opinion. Ha-Seong Kim actually, I don't know if it's still the case, but he leads the league in WAR right now.
Yeah, I mean, because his defense is amazing. I was gonna say with the with the Cronenworth contract, what they should have done, is wait. I don't know if he was ARB eligible this year or eligible. You should have just waited for that because then it's like, well, if he does good, you will pay him what you would pay him anyways. If he does poorly, you pay him less. Like, I don't know. I think it was kind of foolish because he's also relatively young.
Yeah, it was rushed.
Their deals are really strange to me. As you're saying, like they love money. They love spending money. They love like Xander Bogaerts deals. Like, I don't even understand that. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand it either.
They thought like Bogaerts was like Correa, so they're like, okay, we'll give him infinite money, and then obviously that hasn't panned out too well. But I don't know, their contracts are very long, and
the Correa ones.
The Correa did
really bad.
Yeah,
well, I think he has more upside than Bogaerts, though. You know. Like this is a guy who I think has already won like two or three. No, he's
It's
won
funny.
two.
The shortstop market in general has been fascinating to me the past few seasons with signings because I mean, you look at Trey Turner, not outright terrible, but the power's not there,
Not been
and his
good this year.
Not anymore.
right
Not been
his,
good.
his slash line's very mediocre and very like, oh, that's a okay shortstop,
Not a three
you
hundred
know?
million dollar shortstop, right?
Right,
He's gonna have
exactly.
ups
And
and
then
downs.
yeah, and then you move on, look around the league. Bogarts, you can blame some of it on injury, but I mean, not all of it. He's been underperforming overall. He's been mediocre, but it gets worse. Correa's been atrocious. You look at Javi Baez. I mean,
That's just one of the worst
when he
pitchers in Major League history.
right, if he's not facing an outside slider, I mean, he's fine. But I mean, one of the worst chase rates ever. Javi Baez has been it. So it's
Yeah.
weird to see what's happening with the shortstop market.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that the front office, I mean, there were needs on this team, and the way they solved it was really interesting to me. And honestly, I bought into the hype. I thought it would work. Move Tatis to outfield, which he's played a really solid outfield.
Yeah,
He
Yeah,
has a great
he's been
arm.
great actually out there.
He's been a stud, but I mean, Tatis is a stud. That's no shocker. But then to bring in Bogarts instead of throwing Kim in at shortstop permanently and moving Kim to second base and then moving Cronenworth to first and then signing Cronenworth, it's just created a situation where I don't know what to do trade wise. Because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, I don't see this front office giving up on Cronenworth this early. It after one season, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, down year, got some bad BABIP luck, which is true, but not enough to explain how bad he's been. I mean, you're kind of stuck with a 210 hitting first baseman
maybe a
for
pitch
some
clock
time
kind
to
of thing.
come.
Like you just got rid of Eric Hosmer, who was what
Right.
even was that, right?
And yeah, my
That
buddy,
was a blur.
yeah. My buddy said to me, like, oh, remember Eric Hosmer? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, he's back. He hits 210 and
Still
his name is
playing.
Jake Cronenworth. It's very frustrating because it's like, really, we didn't learn anything from that contract, and it feels like a here we go again situation with an underperforming first baseman that we're stuck with. And when you look at first basemen around the league, I mean, they're supposed to hit like better than the average position overall. They're supposed to have a lot of power. I mean, you look around the league, see guys like Freeman, Chapman, Olson.
Yeah,
I mean, Cronenworth does not fit in that category, and that's a
no.
position. His defense has been really solid, but again, the Padres' defense overall is not what needs help. I mean, you have a lot of potential Gold Glovers on that team. Even, I mean, Grisham, Tatis, Machado. I mean, everyone on that field, on that diamond, is a superstar defensively. So that's
Oh,
clearly. Am I
or continue.
besides catcher maybe?
Well, I was gonna ask you, what do you think the needs are then? Because like at least from what I see on paper, like their starting pitching's pretty good. Their relief pitching, right? Like they can bring up guys from the minors who are
Bullpen has
actually pretty
been
good. I've seen some weirdos come from their system. I'm like, I'm impressed.
yeah. Right
But I
now,
don't
I
know what's
mean,
happening with them. And also, really quick, like their farm system is really horrible. So
it's
I don't really
bad.
know what they could
It's
do
thin.
trade wise at this
Right.
point.
That's the issue. Trade wise, we'd be looking for a contender. We'd find someone who has like wants that extra step. There's been a lot of talks about packages to the Yankees. I think that's the team I see the Padres most commonly linked with, because the Yankees, although they're looking on the outside of the playoff picture, you give them a few more pieces, I could see the Yankees making a run,
Right, yeah.
um, and they're in
Somehow.
win now mode somehow, right?
Yeah.
So people I've seen. I mean, the big three are looking at guys because we don't really have a huge farm system to work with trade wise. Looking at the three, I mean, first of all, Snell and Hader, who are most likely gone after this year. I don't
Yeah.
see either of them wanting to resign with us.
Hader's
Um,
gonna get paid like $30 million
right.
a year
Hader's getting
to
a
play
lot of
like
money.
3 years at Yankee Stadium or something.
Right. I mean, we don't have money to re-sign these guys. And I mean, Hader's trade value, I mean, I think he'll remain a stud for a while, but it's
Yeah,
especially high now.
It's
Snell,
amazing.
yeah, Snell's trade value right now, I
it's the
think is
highest one.
higher than it might ever be.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah, I
I don't
agree. I
think
totally agree.
in the because I mean he's been a stud. I at least as of a few days ago, he was leading the league in ERA. I believe he still is. Um,
He's got a really like good K percentage too. His in zone whiff is
great.
like
Yeah,
incredible. I think his K percentage is like 40% in the last like month and a half that he's right like the
It,
last 10 starts. It's amazing.
every pitch is working right now, which has not been the case since he got to San Diego. He kind of lost touch with the changeup and the slider to an extent, and the curveball was there at times, but um, we've seen a lot of spiked balls into the dirt with that with Blake Snell's two strike
Yeah,
count curveball, which results in a lot of pass balls, and it's just he hasn't been what he was in that Cy Young form with the Rays since
right.
he got to the Padres. And I mean the joke has always been first half or second half Blake Snell struggles
Yeah,
in the first half, and he it's more like first quarter, last three quarters Blake Snell this year. He struggled a lot earlier on, couldn't locate the changeup or really the slider. Figured out how to locate again. Um, got his touch back, but part of me wonders: is he really going to carry that through next year as he gets older and older? As he slowly loses velocity, can he carry this pace? I don't think Blake Snell um, will ever be as dominant as he is at this exact moment. So I
mhm,
think in a season where statistically you look at our standings, we're like 2 games ahead of the Mets or something like that. We're basically where the Mets are, and they're starting to give up a bit already and sell. I think we should sell. We don't have to sell a lot, but I think getting rid of Snell right now and getting the most value for him, some prospects maybe at bullpen, maybe some outfielders. Obviously, Tatis and Soto are great, but Grisham is a huge liability. Has been for a long time. So that's kind of where my mind is at. I love Snell. I've loved watching him. I love his personality. Hilarious dude. But I think it's time to let Snell go and get as many prospects as you possibly can.
yeah, the reason I just believe that they should go all in is because like Art Moreno, like I bet the owners and the GM. I know Perry's a good GM for the Angels, but like AJ Preller, like I don't really think they care. Like I think this is like the year to go all in for them. And here's the thing, they should have listen, if they were really smart about reviving that system, they should have traded Snell and Hader probably like 2 days ago, like at the start. The Giolito trade should have been Blake Snell, and it should have been like two or three other prospects from the Angel system because Blake Snell is literally the best starter in the market. Like if I'm okay, listen to this, right? In the month of July, every pitch except the fastball, which obviously won't have too high of a whiff, has 50% whiff on it. His fastball is hovering around 20, but that's also because like I guess his fastball is like very distinct, but every other pitch,
Yeah.
which is around 100 pitches thrown, 50% whiff. And last month it was even better. Like he looks really good, but I mean, if they don't trade him, which they probably won't, or Hader, who's been great since the second half last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that team's doing.
It's
I don't know
it's
what they're considering.
frustrating. It's funny. I've selfishly since the All Star break came back and we dropped our first series to the Phillies, typical Padres series, blowout win in the first game. Oh look, Padres are back, baby, let's go. And then drop the second one because they blow a seventh inning lead, lose another one same day doubleheader, I believe in extra innings, and then drop the fourth game by just playing terrible baseball overall. And at that point, I was kind of selfishly, I want us to keep losing so the front office can be like, oh, we do have to sell. We're not making the playoffs this year, barring a Tampa Bay April run.
Yeah,
So, but they keep hovering around mediocrity. They'll take the first game of the series and then they'll drop two, or they'll go. I mean, they never get swept and they never sweep. It's extremely frustrating.
yeah, just like a lack of dominance over overall. Do you guys have any other teams or ideas or trades or targets you want to talk about really quick before we wrap things up?
I I had one just one team that I'm very curious about because nothing has really happened yet, but there's been so much talk around it. What do you guys think of the Cubs? There's a lot of
Ooh,
rumors around Bellinger, a lot of
Oh,
rumors around
definitely.
Stroman.
you stole
Stillman,
my idea there.
yeah,
Yeah, I go ahead though. I totally agree. The Cubs are very interesting.
yeah, they're an interesting one. Tons of rumors about where people there can go. It seems like Chicago in general as a city is like the talk of the trade deadline.
The
White
talk of the town.
Sox,
Yeah.
yeah, White Sox. A lot has happened, and there's still rumors around Tim Anderson, who I could see them moving Tim.
I think the Marlins wanted to get him. I could also see him like
I
slotting
like
maybe
that
in the
landing spot.
Mariners somewhere because Colton Wong's been like not good for a
Yeah,
while, but like specifically this year, I think his OPS is like 400, which is like why? Why do you have
I don't
Colton
think the M
Wong?
should be a buyer right now.
The M's or the Cubs? Which
No,
one?
The Mariners.
Yeah, I
I
totally
think
agree with that.
I think
Yeah,
the
the
Cubs are gonna
Mariners
go on
should
a run.
buy. Yeah,
yeah.
and like the Cubs, no, as Alex was saying, like the Cubs have looked really good in July. Like they've looked. I think that they've
Yeah.
won like 8 in a row.
Yeah,
Like
because
they're
Cody
they
Bellinger's going on a 2019 run.
Yeah, it's impressive. They have Cody Bellinger who's doing well. You have an ace in Marcus Stroman, but I don't think that the team has enough fuel for the playoffs. Like they have a really good bullpen, and
They
they have a
definitely got
couple of
hope.
other parts that are good, but I don't really think that they're like a complete team. If I were them, I would just try and capitalize on because look at it, like they're pretty much I'd say 2 years away from being pretty good. Next year they could have like a Reds Pirates run early on, but like look at it like this: you have you have essentially three expiring pitchers in what's his name? In Stroman, in Smiley, and I think there's another guy. I think I'm forgetting his name.
It's
I
not
because they
Steele, is it?
no.
No,
Steele's been really good for them.
Steele's,
Billy
There's
yeah.
Anderson.
another guy for them. Wait, let me look real quick. Sorry. I mean, you have Kyle Hendricks. He's probably going to go at some point.
Oh, I think
Oh,
he's like.
Jameson Tyone. Maybe I meant Tyone.
Oh
But
no,
yeah,
Tyon just got signed.
or yeah. So, but if you look at Kyle Hendricks, those are three guys who are going to expire. Kyle Hendricks, Drew Smiley, and Marcus Stroman. And then if you look at a lot of the other guys on the list, like their bullpen is pretty good and their 40 man's pretty good too. It's deep. But I don't know. A lot of these guys could go very quickly. Like I think Michael Fulmer, I think he only signed a 1 year with them. Brad Boxberger, 1 year, he's gone. And then obviously you have two minor leaguers in Julian Merriweather and Mark Leiter who've been really good. Like you could easily flip them for like crazy prospect capital. Their farm
Yeah,
system's really good. Matt Mervis needs more reps at first, but he's a great prospect. Hayden Wesneski is also really good. I personally think that they should sell. I think it'd be really smart if they sell because I think next year, 2 years, they get a lot of prospects. They're going to be really good.
yeah, it'd be smart. I
Interesting.
just don't know if that's the direction they want to go in.
Yes.
Yeah. They
Draft and
seem to
sell.
You
be
never know
in,
with how hot
yeah.
they're being right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like people forget how recently, like relatively, it was that they really started this kind of rebuild process, got rid of Rizzo and all of those other guys that were part
Yeah,
of that
21, I think, right?
26. Yeah. Yeah, it was 21. I mean, they won
But
it
they got
all in
rid of Bryant
2016. Those guys
too,
were there. Yeah, got rid of their core. Chris Bryant moved on
Avi,
in Avi, which maybe was for the better in hindsight.
for
But
everyone, including himself. Like,
right, exactly. But it's just it's weird because they're also in a position where I'm like, I don't know what I do if I'm their front office. Because part of me thinks trust that process. They've also been a team that I I was bringing up the run differential stats for the Padres. When I was researching that, I knew the Padres had a good run differential. Shockingly, the Cubs are sixth
Huh?
in run differential. So another team that maybe their luck in close games and clutch situations hasn't really represented what they are overall as a team. Overall, they're a pretty solid, competent organization. I doubt they're gonna push for a playoff spot this year. Too many other threats in the stacked NL, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're hovering a little below 500 right now, and
I mean, they
the
could make a
issue
run at the
is,
division,
yeah,
maybe.
right. That's got to be one of the weakest divisions in
Yeah,
baseball,
who's
barring
at the
the
top?
other
The
central.
Reds right now.
The Brewers
Yeah,
are 5 games away, and the Cubs have won. Well, this is unsustainable, but 9 of their last 10, and the Brewers are only 5 games out. Same thing with the Reds; they're tied for first.
yeah,
But I agree with you, dude. I really think that they should sell. Like you also have a guy like Ian Happ, who I think's been at, and Mike Talkman, Patrick Wisdom. You have guys who are really having career years who should be dealt. Even
Ian
Cody
Happ has
Bellinger,
been
like
on the
you could
trade
trade him
block
to
for
the
5 years.
huh?
Ian Happ has always been a trade piece.
Yeah, he has.
yeah. Every year,
But you could trade like all of those guys, including Cody Bellinger, for like tons of prospects from the
That'd
Yankees
be a
and other
really
teams.
good
It's a
haul.
seller's market. Like they could just go ham and
there's a
like
lot they can do.
I think
I
their
mean,
farm
they have
system
so many
is really
pieces.
good.
They have I believe they have a pretty solid farm organization overall, and then some of the younger prospects and veteran prospects on the team. Because I mean, I don't know, when it comes to trading, there's kind of I mean, you can go through the younger, give people prospects so they can develop their prospects and build their team, or you look for the win now teams and give them your veteran players so they have that extra power for the playoffs. And it's like the Cubs can do both right now. They have people like
Yeah,
Merriweather and they have people like Stroman or Bellinger. They really have, yeah, they have probably the most versatility in terms of trade value on a team.
agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
Maybe the White Sox are close as well because they're kind of all over the place with veterans and and younger players. Although the White Sox is really purely focused on pitching staff in general, the
Yeah.
exception of a few people like Tim. Cubs is really every single position practically you can point at and be like, oh, there's a guy that has trade value. So
I was gonna say the Cubs are almost. I guess you could look at least I think that they're either like an older version of the Pirates in the fact that like they have a couple of developed players, they have some veterans, they have some upcoming guys, or they're like
yeah,
the Rays this year, but like if the Rays were 10 or even 15 games worse, you have a lot of pieces that you could trade. No, it's true. It's like right,
No,
like the
yeah.
Rays are doing great this year, even though this July has been horrible. Uh, and that's for a
mm-hmm.
multitude of reasons, mostly just BABIP. But
Yeah.
if you just look at it like that, where the Rays have a bunch of guys who could be traded, like this would be a perfect seller's market for the Rays. Like if they weren't winning, they have so many pieces that they could auction off for tons of value. Like let's see, even a guy like Randy Rosarena, right? But
That'd be a
the
crazy
Cubs,
trade.
huh?
That'd be an insane.
I mean, if they were 15 games, like if they were like middling, I mean, they're probably going to trade him in the offseason or something because he's a Boras agent, and they haven't agreed to an extension, so and he's ARB eligible, so like things are not going to be great for him soon,
Is your
probably.
Dodger?
Dodgers, I've heard that floated. Maybe send him and Pete Fairbanks over there. But really quickly, what do you guys? We talked about the Mariners. Curious about thoughts on the Mariners because I think that they are also they could be win now, but I think
I
that
think they should just stay the way they are and then wait till next year because the first half
Yeah.
of the year they just haven't been what I wanted them to be.
yeah,
I thought they would be like a Rays type team.
yeah,
They'd be
I'd
up
say
there,
like
but
Blue Jays are very comparable, like to the
yeah,
Mariners
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
group. You know what I mean? Like they're almost like the I don't know. I mean, I'd say the Blue Jays are kind of like the Braves of the AL East in a way because they have like this very stacked core and they kind of run things in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like they have a certain position group. They go after like free agents. They're willing to make trades. But yeah, like the Mariners, I think that they're just. I mean, I guess you could argue the Rays are the Braves of the East, but like I don't know. The Mariners are like just very disappointing. Like they have so much
Yeah.
talent, and they traded for Justin Topa in the offseason. They made a couple of trades. I think they even or last year they signed Robbie Ray. They had very deep rotation too,
I
and
really
then
like their team. It's just they've
they just
underperformed
a
heavily.
lot of
Yeah.
injuries. A lot of injuries. I think three
Mhm.
of their like contributors for this year had Tommy John, including Robbie Ray and Easton McGee. So like they had a bunch of guys who just went down. And then Jared
Yeah.
Kalenic like fell
Kelnick.
off a cliff. Or Kelnick, yeah, he fell
Yeah.
off a cliff.
And
And
then
then
broke his
J-Rod,
foot with the water cooler incident, right?
Oh yeah, huh?
Yeah. I don't think that's too significant of an injury. It's been, I don't know. I've always liked Kellenic as a prospect, and obviously he hasn't panned out at all until the start of this season when he went just ballistic for a bit, and everyone was like, "Wow!" It's like because he was always kind of neck and neck with Julio. I feel like before he made his debut, it was kind of like, "Oh, look at all these young outfielders. They got
Yeah.
Julio Rodriguez, they got
oh
Jared
yeah,
Kellenic. Julio ascended. Kellenic did not at all. Never made the most of his opportunities when he was playing in the MLB, and then this year he took
he
off.
rediscovered. Yeah, I was
It
gonna
was
say
really exciting.
if I remember correctly, for a little while, like the top three prospects in MLB were like it was literally like in between Wander Franco, Julio Rodriguez, and Jared Kelnick. Like they were all considered
Sure,
so
yeah.
so
Yeah,
highly touted. I think Julio Rodriguez is the highest ceiling of those three players, but Kelnick is very consistent. I could see him being very consistent. I know at AAA last year he was just killing it, and even this year he's kind of started to materialize. So I don't know, I like him. I
yeah,
agree, and I think the Mariners like they really have a good core. They just don't have a great farm right now, and then I mean they just traded for Luis Castillo, and that like ate them big time. I don't know. I kind of hope
yeah,
that they'll figure things out though. They're really cool.
yeah.
Acuna was the guy the Mets got in return.
Okay, just him.
I think so. That's all I've been seeing.
Huh.
Okay, at least him. I would assume at least one of the pitching prospects goes. Maybe not. I would be shocked. I mean, that just means that Texas is okay with taking the budget. Apparently, Phil Bickford just got DFA'd, by the
Yeah,
way.
he got DFA'd.
Okay, I'll pick him up. I'd pick him up. Honestly, that's the Rays trade. That's actually the Rays trade this deadline. Pick up Phil
Yeah, that's
Bickford.
their deadline move.
Fix
That's
Bickford.
their bullpen piece. Phil Bickford.
They're gonna fix him, and he's gonna throw like 100 from like his sidearm slot. No, he's really nasty though. Phil Bickford's really good. I would pick him up.
Whatever.
Nah, he is really good. He's got a good fastball, good gyro slider. I know, I like him. He's good. Well, I think that's it for the first time.
Yeah.
The first episode.
Yeah, first episode. I think that we're gonna conclude
sure.
here. And yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.